G.E.L in Agriculture, brought to you with the compliments of the Ministry of Agriculture, Food, Fisheries and Water Resource Management.
Grow well, eat well, live well, right here in BIM.
Hello and welcome again to G.E.L in Agriculture. As you can see, we've started the show in a library, which may seem like a strange place, but to be honest, if we really want our agricultural sector in Barbados to grow and develop with new innovative products, we really must start by doing our research. The Chief Agricultural Officer, Lennox Chandler, says the ministry has a long tradition of research and development.
That's been always our main focus. The ministry produced a document, a book called Crop Recommendations, which is based on our research, which essentially was used throughout the Caribbean to guide other agricultural scientists in how to do things. Way back in the day, the center of excellence for sugarcane was shifted from Brazil to Barbados because of our acumen, because of our expertise, because of our skill in producing sugar. Now we asking Brazil to help us. I mean, the ministry has done a lot of work in terms of biological control. For example, the sugarcane moth borer in sugarcane is a serious pest, but through the efforts and through our research, we have been able to control the sugarcane moth borer for years without having to apply any form of pesticides at all to sugarcane. I mean, we've brought things like drip irrigation into Barbados, and other things in the livestock industry, artificial insemination, and all these things that would have come out of the research, even the area of horticulture, tube roses and anthuriums, and all these things looking at different forms of growing media and things that the ministry would have been involved in. So research and development is nothing new. As I said, we have fallen away from it, and therefore we are moving to bring it back in whatever form it takes, because there are various forms of research and development. You don't have to have $1 million lab and expensive equipment and high-priced scientists to be involved in research and development. There are different levels.
Well, a couple of weeks ago, we got to see the fantastic cotton that we produce in Barbados. But as Mr. Chandler explained to me, a lot of research goes into maintaining and hopefully improving that valuable sector, as well as several others.
The ministry has always had a research focus in cotton. And one of the areas will be producing new varieties. So you have better length, better quality. The other area would be seed quality, because you have to have proper seeds in order to have a proper crop. So right now the ministry's focus is breeding, so that we can maintain the quality, the fiber length and the strength of the cotton. Then we have root crops like sweet potato. I'm sure you know about the research work that's going on with cassava, where we're working to identify varieties which are more amenable to cooking for fresh eating, as opposed to processing for flowers or for livestock feed. We have a big program going on with an agency called Clayuca, which is coming out of South America. We should be soon getting a mill to help in the grinding and production of the cassava mash and stuff. But we also focusing on sweet potato, because for all intents and purposes, by my way of thinking, sweet potato is more the root crop of Barbados than cassava. I think more sweet potato is grown and more sweet potato is consumed. Essentially, what cassava can do, sweet potato can do as well, in terms of flowers or in terms of gels or in terms of whatever. So our plan is to examine the various varieties that we have, so we can determine what they're best for, whether it's for processing as flowers or for processing as chips or whatever forms they want to use them, and to create a value chain around sweet potato in the same manner that we've created one for cassava. We're going to be looking at breadfruit as well, because breadfruit is coming up to the fore as a plant with a lot of potential for all sorts of things, ice creams and flowers and whatever you could think about. Again, we have to get in the varieties, because there are some varieties which are referred to as dwarf, And then there are the ones that grow in St. Joseph that you need an aircraft or a helicopter to pick your fruit. So these are things that we want to look at. So we want to look at bearing time, the height, type of fruit, the taste, consumer acceptance. All these things have to be done. And which breadfruit is better for processing, which one has a longer shelf life, so you can put that in the supermarket to sell fresh. So all these things that have to be done. So you're not just planting crops for the sake of planting them. You're planting them for the sake of evaluation and for the sake of coming up with information. Coconut oil is now a cure for all, for any ailment. They don't want to call it any specific ailment. Whatever ailment you have, use some coconut oil. And we're recognizing this. And not only that, there's a projection that there will be a shortage of coconut water globally because of the demand for coconut water. Coconut water now is one of the top health drinks in the world. You know what I mean? So there's interest in growing coconut on a commercial basis in Barbados. And the ministry obviously has a role to play in that in terms of research, because we want to get in the various varieties so that we can say to farmers that variety A will take 18 months to grow and it will only bear X amount, whereas variety B will bear in 2 years or 6 months and it will produce a bunch that carries X amount. So we want to do that kind of research in the area of coconut. We've worked on black belly sheep for years in collaboration with different universities outside of Barbados and other agencies. And we were trying to find out what to do with it, what not to do with it. Well, people are moving the area of skins, but in order to have skins, you have to have sheep. So one of the things that we have to do is to be able to produce the sheep. And not only for leather, but for meat as well. I mean, we want to show that the Barbados black belly sheep, the lamb, the meat is of a high quality. And therefore, that's why we have various breeding programs to improve the quality of the meat. One of the other areas we're looking at, and this is going on at Green Livestock Station in St. Andrew, will be goats. And we have been approached by a private sector person to partner with the ministry to set up a sort of a processing plant to produce, in the first instance, goat cheeses, which are in high demand all over the world, especially Europe. During the dry season, we have a number of challenges with feed for livestock in terms of forage and stuff. As well as there's a challenge with concentrates in terms of price. Farmers have been crying out that the concentrates are fairly expensive. We are working in conjunction with CARDI, which is the Caribbean Agricultural Research and Development Institute, is to come up with different mixes of forages. One that we focus on a lot is mulberry. So we can have formulations based on local materials, which will not replace the concentrates, but will supplement or complement and provide other forms of forages during the dry season that farmers can utilize. Pest management, again, has always been a focus. I worked in the ministry as an entomologist many years ago, and I was always focused on research in coming up with new ways to control pests and diseases, especially ways which require less reliance on conventional pesticides. And so we would focus a lot on biological control or cultural control methods, or the use of least toxic products. And again, we are going forward looking at integrated pest management, whereby we are using a combined approach to the control of pests, but aimed at the reduction of pesticide usage.
And as research continues, he says we cannot leave out our indigenous crop, sugarcane, which can be used to make countless products, and he believes it is vital for the future of agriculture in Barbados.
The day that sugarcane disappears from the agricultural landscape of Barbados, agriculture as we know it will also disappear, because there is no agriculture in Barbados without sugarcane.
When we come back, research in action. We will see how farmers utilize a simple contraption in a way that benefits their crops and their pockets.
Grow well, eat well, live well, right here in BIM.
Grab the fork, get the hoe, link up the family and come let it go.
Grow well, eat well,
find nutrition in the food that we got. Plant something, start your own crop, grow something local to put in your pot. It's true, more healthy with the fresh produce, with high nutritional value. It costs less to grow and eat your own food, so gather the crew. Come,
Grow well, eat well, live well, right here in Bim.
yes,
Grow well, eat well, live well, right here in Bim. Grow well, eat well, live well, right here in Bim.
Research is usually used to solve a problem. So here's the problem. Farmers invest a lot in planting crops to bring them returns. But because of birds, pests, high winds and heavy rains, sometimes they end up losing half the yield. Steve Skeet, who's a climate-smart agronomist, says research gave farmers a solution: row covers.
Row covers are devices that are used in the field to protect rows of plants. In our case, obviously our problem is tropical conditions and heat and wind and so on. So we were using row covers to shield plants from the kind of undesirable effects of the climate. High winds, shield against high winds, like the heat of the sun, and those conditions that create like harsh conditions for plants. You can just like list off some of the benefits that you actually can get from row covers. Is like improve yield and fruit quality, protection from soil erosion, because this cover on the soil reduces rainfall impact. So soil has less tendency to get washed away. So if you best the cover with row covers, you have a much better chance of preserving the soil the way it should be. Reduce the incidence of moisture-loving pests. I mentioned broad mite and bacterial spot that love moisture, love rain. Reduce use of pesticide because of that. Because if you don't have to like really control those pests, then you use less on pesticides.
Basically, a PVC pipe can be bent in a variety of ways and nailed together to form what looks like a little house for the rows of plants. You can use plastic against the rain, bird netting, or insect mesh to protect your crops.
You can use these clips to hold the material on, like to clip the insect mesh on. Like once you put this on, it will start help clip materials on. This one is done thoroughly by cutting the PVC conduit and making a long strip that will sort of cover it completely. But you can also use clips like this at 2-foot intervals to keep the materials on, and it usually works. And then you have your drywall screws, which bind the PVC together. So just by covering with that plastic structure, keeping the rain off the leaves, it makes a lot of difference to plants. So plants will actually continue to grow. It's just like in a greenhouse, because they're sheltered from wind and so on and rain. The plants grow at the kind of normal growth that they would expect, and they slightly reduce sunshine, the heat and so on, allows them to grow a little more maybe like subtropical conditions rather than the hot tropics, so to speak. These are recommended mainly for small farmers or like a person doing a kitchen garden or like a backyard garden. So if you're going for some tomatoes and they need a row cover, you could have it on the tomato beds for the time that you're growing tomatoes. And then when you finish growing tomatoes, you can shift it from there to another location so you can rotate your crops. So it has that kind of flexibility to it. If you're doing anything too large, you might want to go like to a mini greenhouse instead of trying to do row covers. Or you could do what we call a walk-in row cover, where you use a bigger diameter pipe and form a longer hoop over 3 beds, so to speak. So rather than trying to cover 1 bed, the row cover could cover like 3 beds and maybe about 50 feet long. One thing you have to do is make sure that you pin them down well. You usually pin them because the wind is often strong, like you have gale force winds sometimes when you don't expect. Using like 1/4-inch steel and take about a foot down in the ground. Or you could put in 1/2-inch steel and then get wire and attach it onto the 1/2-inch steel. Like I say, the covers are designed to be able to look inside and manage the crops, pull weeds or do anything that has to be done inside. If you want to spray anything special like foliar spray, you could do that by lifting up the cover. And there are different designs because this one is done like this, but sometimes you could have like this cover that hinges could go right up to here, so you can have full access when you look in there.
Well, that's it for today. Thank you for joining us on G.E.L in Agriculture, and we do look forward to seeing you next week.
Grow well, eat well, live well, right here in Bim.
G.E.L in Agriculture, brought to you with the compliments of the Ministry of Agriculture, Food, Fisheries and Water Resource Management.